Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our presentation. This is the picture of our group 7 in Grimstad, and today we are going to present on the water quality of a stream called Bekken in Grimstad and assess whether the mini wastewater treatment plant have any impact on the water quality or not. Talking about the water quality can be deteriorated by various factors such as surface runoff, then agriculture and other human impacts, which will then affect the biotic and abiotic factor of water like pH, temperature, river flow, and the species composition. So our study was focused to examine those factors to assess the water quality of the stream. Talking about more about the study site, our study site was Grimstad, which is just 8 kilometers far from the Bergen, and the area is sparsely populated with some construction work going on. As you can see in the picture, the red line shows our stream where we sampled, and these blue dots represent our sampling site. And the stream was located in an area with some slope, and some patches of mixed forest was found of pine and birch. And as we can see that the area is very near to the Flagship airport. To be very precise, under 1 kilometer north from the airport, we can easily see the horse pastures and greenhouses in the study site, which could have some effect on the water quality. And the main important consideration of our study was the small wastewater treatment plants. Here we can see 2 wastewater treatment plants in the site, where in the upper side there were 14 households linked with the plant, and in the lower half only 1 household was linked with the wastewater treatment site, where water gets treated by various biochemical reactions and get released into the stream directly or in the ground near the stream, which could have some impact on the water quality.
Yes. Okay. So the aims of our study, initially we thought, okay, well, if someone pours, if so clean water into the stream, it still pollutes the stream, so the wastewater treatment plants should decrease the water quality. And after seeing the plants, they're not really bigger than this, and this is the 14 households connected to it. And they didn't smell very nice, they didn't look very nice, as you can see in the picture. So we thought this hypothesis could be true. But we also wanted to look at other factors that might influence the levels of TCB and phosphorus in the river. And is the area recreationally safe? This river drains into the Grimstad fjord, which is an important place for recreational purposes for the community.
Okay, so the way we went testing about this is we've got some little friends to help us here. This is a collate, this is a collate, that's a collate, and they're also a collate. Shall we come around this side? Maybe it's a bit easier for everyone to see what we're doing. So as Baraj said, we did our study along Bekken, and we selected a small part of the stream with 5 sites where we collected samples. So at the first site, the map's been reversed just for simplicity. At site 1, which represents the most upstream control, we collected coliform samples. And then we also collected samples upstream and downstream of each wastewater treatment plant. So we collected samples upstream of each wastewater treatment plant and also downstream of each wastewater treatment plant. In addition to that, we also collected phosphorus samples at the control site and upstream and downstream of the first wastewater treatment plant. We also checked the pH and temperature levels at each site. And in addition to that, we took note of rainfall on the day of study. It was buffeting, we all got wet. I think other groups got wet, surprise. But we also did something no other group in BIO300 has ever done before, and that is looking at river flow. So the way we did this was, as you can see in the picture, Magnus and I are at the control site, and we've got a piece of tape. And we measured a selected length of the stream.
3 meters.
3 meters. And then we got a ping pong ball. And then we let it float down the stream.
10 seconds.
10 seconds. So from the displacement and the time, we were able to get a velocity value. And multiplying that with the cross-sectional area of the river enabled us to get a flow value. So, yeah, something quite new. So we also did biodiversity. We used kick sampling to collect samples at each site to bring back to the university, where we strained our eyes a little bit to find the species. And then we analysed parts of our data using R, which spent hours and lost brain cells over, but it saved us in the end. So we managed to get there. So.
So
moving on to results, we looked at the total coliform bacteria as an indicator of water quality. So as you can see from these are values, replicates at each site, the values actually increase up the river. And they're actually already quite high at site 1, which is our control site. So we use this to indicate water quality. And the orange line is the lower limit of bad water quality, and that's the lower limit for very bad. So based on this, we can say that our water quality based on TCB was bad. And we got the numbers from the municipality pollution agency that we used. Yeah, so then we decided to compare between years because we thought they were a bit high and wanted to see if the other years had gotten high results too. And as you can see, those are our results in 2010 and 2008. So the values actually increased quite a lot between the years, which is interesting because you wouldn't expect them to vary that much. And then the variation is also significantly. Yeah, so then we move on to the phosphorus results. And you can see we also have the same trend in the phosphorus that they increase between the 3 sites. And we did replicates, so that is the dots are replicates. And then you can also see we use the same water quality indexes, and that is the upper limit for less good, and that is the lower limit for bad. So you can see our numbers all are less good based on this. And they also significantly increase when you go down the river. So when you do the same thing and compare between years, we can see that even though phosphorus does vary between the years, it doesn't show the same patterns as for TCB. So you can hear so that is ours in 2010 and 2008. But they do vary. So then we decided to look at other factors that would influence this, and we thought rainfall would be really nice to look at, so we decided to see how much rain there was between the years. So then we checked out that, and you can see 2012 had quite a lot of rain when we were sampling. And it's more rain on the day of sampling than in 2010 and 2008. So then we believe that the rainfall could have influences the TCB and phosphorus.
Right. And we also measured temperature and pH, as Danny said. These levels were a balming 11 degrees, and the pH was about 6.5, which is quite okay for a river. And these values did not differ between the sites, nor between the years, so these are pretty constant values. We also did our biodiversity samples, and we managed to get out a few indices. So first we have the Shannon index, which gives us a picture of biodiversity. We also have the BMWP score, which says something about the pollution tolerance of the organisms. And these do not vary a lot between the sites, nor do they vary a lot between the years. In our case, we had quite a small sample size, and rainfall might also have influenced them. But the levels are quite low, indicating it's quite poor water quality. As an example, we found some of these oligochaetes, which have a high pollution tolerance according to the BMWP score, which allows them to then make the score low for that site. So the importance of the BMWP and Shannon index between the years, we see that there's not a big difference, which allows us to think that the slower reacting organismal community does not see the same fluctuations as you see in the TCB levels and the phosphorus levels that Katrina just told us about. So as Dennis said, we also measured river flow. As you can see here, they vary a bit between the sites, but this is normal due to the stream topography. They averaged around 570 liters per second, and this became quite important in another calculation that I'm going to show you. Basically, so we want to answer the question, can the wastewater treatment plant cause a change in phosphorus and TCB concentration? So the average river flow is 570 liters per second. And we can actually calculate the outlet flow, in this case between site 2 and 3, would be the outlet flow from the first wastewater treatment plant connected to 14 houses. So the way we do this is multiply the amount of households connected to the plant by the amount of people per household determined by the OECD, and by the amount of water used per person per day to go into the wastewater treatment plant as defined by Bergen Kommune. We see that the outlet flow on average is very low compared to the river flow. So if we take a step back and look at the values we actually got for phosphorus and TCB at the different sites, between sites 2 and 3 we had 13 to 16 micrograms per liter of phosphorus and 400 to 17 colony forming units per 100 mil for TCB. We also got the data from group 6 from Tultland that told us that there were 1,400 micrograms per liter of phosphorus in their raw sewage inside the treatment plant. So if we then assume that the only increase between site 2 and 3 comes from the treatment plant, we can use the change in concentration between site 2 and 3 as well as the change in the difference in the outlet flow and the river flow to calculate the required concentration in the outlet to account for this difference. So when we do this, we get these values. And as you can see, the required concentrations for phosphorus are enormously high. We're looking at 17 times higher at 25,000 micrograms per liter than raw sewage. And for TCB, we have values over 2,000 times as high as are already in the river. From this, we can conclude that the wastewater treatment plants cannot be the sole cause for the increase in phosphorus and TCB concentrations, just because the values are simply way too high.
Yeah. So with that in mind, and as Katrina said earlier before, we've already got high levels of TCB and phosphorus concentrations in the stream. So we have to start thinking, what's going on? What other factors are contributing to these high levels? So we noted the rainfall, and we also know that the rainfall with topography during heavy rain events can lead to lots of runoff of coli into the stream, and that can increase levels, both for E. coli and phosphorus. And if we think on a broader perspective, as Baraj said in the introduction, there are quite a lot of things around the site that are developed by people. So human impact can play a role. So there's that horse pasture there, the greenhouse and the airport, which is very close. And Site 1 already had high levels, and that was before a treatment plant actually had any impact on that, on the levels we found. So there's other points of concern that I think are worth looking at. So
from our study,
Yeah, go.
so from our study, long-term study conclude that that our studies conclude, as Magnus said, the wastewater treatment plant do not seem to any effect on the water quality. But some cases, the external sources such as the fecal materials from the pastures, which is from horse farming, and also nutrients from the greenhouse, and also the waste from the airport could contribute to increase the TCB and the phosphorus level in the Grimstad. So, looking at the study in a broader perspective, the increasing TCB and phosphorus levels could have flow-on effect further down the stream, where the samples were not collected in these year studies. This includes the pond at the end of the river and the outlet where the water flows out. So increasing phosphorus also causes the algal bloom, and eventually it leads to the eutrophication, and also the increasing TCB and the phosphorus level also degrade the fisheries and also lower the biodiversity. So finally we can say that the wastewater treatment plants function effectively in the Grimstad, and we can suggest that where the countries with poor wastewater treatment can install this cheap wastewater treatment plant to increase the water quality.
So, as our conclusion, we feel that the wastewater treatment plants are working as intended by the Bergen municipality, but there are other external sources which are contributing to these high levels of phosphorus and TCB that were found to begin with. So I think it's worth future studies, and even the municipality themselves, trying to determine what's going on here, because water quality is such an important factor, especially at a site so close to the airport. So just like to thank you for your time and everyone who helped us with our project.